Well, hey guys, veteran outdoorsman here, and sorry, let me turn this down. I had a really good conversation with Troy Fowler, the Ranch Fairy, this morning, and we're gonna play that. Don't pay attention to the video part of it. I do a little bit of an introduction, and then it just sits there. We had to record it with another camera because I just couldn't get my Zoom to work on my phone. As far as the record goes, but I think I've got that ironed out for next time. Also, I'm going to apologize that we lost a little bit of the recording, um, but there's still a lot of really good information on there. Pro tip: make sure your data cards aren't full when before you start a Zoom call with somebody when you're recording it. I didn't do that, so we lost a little bit of the back of the conversation, and it cuts off at the end. I'm sorry about that, but nevertheless, let's go ahead and go into the video. I think you're really going to, or more of a podcast type format. I think you're going to enjoy it. A lot of good information. Maybe I'll be able to get him on again sometime later down the road. But he so graciously gave up his time, and he just a super guy. A lot of information. Check out his channel. Just type in the Ranch Fairy. You're going to find it. You can Google it, whatever. You're going to find it. There's also a lot of podcasts and things that he's been a part of that you're going to want to listen to. So, without further ado, here is the Ranch Fairy. Okay, so now we're recording. Okay, so welcome to the Veteran Outdoorsman YouTube channel. We have a special guest, Troy Fowler, today. And how about you go ahead and introduce yourself, Troy?
Okay. My name is Troy Fowler, and I have a YouTube channel called The Ranch Fairy that was never supposed to be seen by normal humans. I was supposed to stay in a little hole with my tinfoil hat and hide from the bow hunting world, shooting what most people consider to be javelins out of a compound bow. And somehow it took off. I'm 52 years old, 3 kids that are grown and have jobs, and they're all responsible and all that stuff. And I came out of the womb with a fishing rod in my hand, I promise you that. And then I've bow hunted since I was 12. I mean, this is pre-carbon. I spent a decade shooting trad, woodies, 6 or 10 different kind of wood, aluminum, when the carbons came, but I've shot multiple animals with flint points. Went really off the trad game for a while, and then when my kids were young, I did the baseball thing and all that, and then got back into bow hunting, probably 10 or 15 years ago, seriously. And then, so I was experiencing, my story is failure. The reason why I started the channel is failure. We have a pretty good population of feral hogs on our place, and I killed a 150-inch deer in 2008, and I just don't care to shoot another deer. I don't know what the heck's wrong with me. I take a lot of people hunting, and I've got a gun with 30 names on it that were first-time shooters, and whenever somebody who's ever killed their first big game animal with what we call the first gun, I write their name on the stock. And then I've got jillions of pictures of my nieces and nephews and kids and stuff. I love doing that. I mean, there's nothing more rewarding than taking somebody hunting. I video them, and it's just, I'm getting old. I'm just not pissed at the deer. But I really like to hunt big, mature feral hogs, and they aren't easy. It's not, yeah, we use deer feeders here and all that, but it's not like you can just go out there any old day smoking a freaking cigarette and drinking a Bud Light and shoot a big one. It doesn't work like that. They're like mature whitetails. A big feral hog's 5 or 7 years old. He's seen everything.
Oh, sure.
Been shot at, trapped, run with freaking dogs, and they're smart. And so when you get one in front of you, it's a pretty special deal. And at one time, I was probably 50% effective on them. And that's recovery rate, maybe lower. And I don't know how many of the losses or the ones I never recovered died. I just know I hit them. I didn't hit bonk. I didn't have 4 inches of penetration. And I just kept losing them. And it was really challenging. So I said, well, what for lack of having every arrow on the earth, and I'm shooting 17 yards, which is kind of a deer hunting deal. So I studied Dr. Ed Ashby's Natal study, and it was the only book of literature in the mid-2000s out there that was different than what the industry was touting. So I said, the hell with it. I mean, what I'm doing is not working. I'm rather practical, right? It's not working effectively enough for me. I have guns, my little 44 Magnum lever gun. When you pop them in the head with that, it doesn't matter how big they are. They don't make it. I have standard deer rifles and all that. So I went off the rails. I built a 670 grain arrow with a single bevel broadhead. I tried to get as close to what Ed was doing, and I started torching them. And it was a completely different experience. So I started a YouTube channel based on that preface. And it has, like I said, gone way beyond anything I ever expected.
Yeah, it's really taken off. So that's my
intro.
Yeah, it's really taken off. I've had some similar experiences. I live in the Midwest. I don't have the opportunity to shoot the feral hogs like you do, because Missouri, in all its wisdom, decided to make hunting feral hogs illegal. Because they want to eradicate them.
Right, shooting them is eradicating them.
Yeah, well, I think 2017 they decided that the best way to do that was to let the conservation department take care of it and not allow people to hunt them. So you can shoot one during deer season if you have an unfilled deer tag. And other than that, if you're on private land...
Sure you don't live in California?
You would think.
Who in the hell cares? That is a crazy law, because the conservation department, they'll find out. You can't stop them. Well, you can. Helicopters are awesome. I've done that.
Well, and they do some of that. When you go up in the
helicopter, they all die.
They do some of that. They don't get away. But mostly it's corral traps. If you're on private ground, you can shoot them year round. On public land,
public.
On public land, you can't hunt them. But they have taken over.
They're going to find out that the things learn.
They've taken over Mark Twain National Forest and several of the waterways and things like that.
They've got them forever, brother.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They get trap shy, and you can't catch them. And they also get big enough. Some of them get big enough they just don't participate.
Yeah. Well, I said, I had similar experiences. I mean, I started. I'm a little bit younger than you. I'm 40, but I started. I started shooting archery when I was 4, I think.
Yep.
With a little Bear fiberglass recurve that I could barely pull back, a yellow bear, and then my dad bow hunted at the time. He injured his back really bad, and he quit bow hunting. So I was on. I didn't really get a chance to bow hunt until I could drive. We gun hunted and we squirrel hunted, rabbit hunted, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I shot my bow in the backyard, and Dad would take me down to the local archery range and let me shoot and stuff like that. I started bow hunting when I was 16, so 24 years ago. I learned very quickly that cheap broadheads didn't work.
Yep.
I bought some you're talking 24 years ago. I bought some like $5 a pack for 3 broadheads at Walmart, thinking, these will work. And the first deer I shot, I bonked it, like you say, and got about 3 inches of penetration into the shoulder bone. And I just, when the arrow hit, I knew that broadhead just came apart. It was one of those you could just tell when the arrow hit the animal. So I went to Muzzy broadheads.
Yep.
And
I've done wild stuff with muzzies.
I swore by them for years. The first deer I ever killed with a Muzzy, I shot at 6 steps from my ladder stand, and I drove through through the shoulder blade and stuck into the far leg. The deer staggered about 1.5 feet sideways, ran about 75 yards, and died. And I thought, okay, I've got something here. Now you're talking, I was shooting a 22-16 arrow with a 100-grain broadhead. I was right around 600 grains.
Yeah, you were. We didn't know any better, right?
No.
Nobody measured that stuff. We just shot through everything and broke everything.
And I was shooting maybe 180 feet per second.
Of course.
But that deer, I mean, and this is with an early single cam bow that was considered fast. I mean, its IBO speed was 285.
The more I do this, bows don't matter.
You're 100% correct. You're 100% correct.
Now, let me clarify what I mean by that. So the current focus on bows is all about speed and da-da-da-da. And I get a kick every time. I don't shoot 3D very often because I get really bored about target 12. I just go home. I never go through the whole target thing. I just never finish. And it's just not my deal. And I spend more time walking around, not shooting, looking at people's stuff. And the serious 3D guys are shooting a 40-inch bow. You know why? Because they're really stable and they're really accurate.
Well, sure. My first bow was 44 inches.
It doesn't look like they're shooting super fast. I don't know anything about 3D, so whoever's out there, if y'all want to smack me around about that, fine. But it looks like they are leaning towards the most forgiving, accurate setup they can possibly get in their hands to shoot foam.
Yes.
And I promise you, that same clown's got a 28-inch VXR that's kind of whipping them sideways, and their mentality's not the same when they go bow hunting.
If he farts, the arrow's off by 3 feet.
It's amazing to me that happens. And I'm going to go on a little rampage here on some of my videos about that because it should be backwards. Well, it should be the same. You should be shooting the most stable, accurate platform bow hunting that you possibly can. And there's a very easy reason for that. You're putting a wing on the front.
Oh, 100%, 100%. I agree with you. I've never shot a whole lot of 3D. I'm kind of like you, but the thing that I don't like about 3D is that the vitals don't change when the position of the target changes, and they'll set up a quartering away.
I think that's a print issue, though.
So, and I agree with that. But it kind of trains you to shoot the wrong spot of an animal if it's quartering away and things like that.
The 12 ring on a deer if you hit the 12 ring on a deer 3D target or whatever, you better hope they don't move.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to be high. If they jump the string at all, your shot was on, and then they drop 4 inches, and it's going to be high, and that causes for a long day. And I think I need to. I just talked to Mackenzie. They sent me a pig target, but I need to call them. I don't know if they'll tell me the truth, but I think it's a printing issue. I look at the side of those animals. They try to make them realistic, right? So there's always a bump for the shoulder. If they just made them flat, I think they could put the vitals where they're supposed to be, right?
Sure.
But I think the manufacturing process doesn't allow for that. And then secondarily, the general consensus in bow hunting is to shoot deer through the back of the lungs and gut shoot them.
Yes.
They don't understand basic physiology.
No, I agree 100. I agree 100%. We're going to touch on that here in a little bit. I shot 300 rounds for a while. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Indoor, you shoot a target and
that's spots, yeah. That's where you see guys shooting 200 feet per second with 400 grain points and feathers.
Well, exactly.
I get a kick out of those guys.
Exactly, and I started seeing
these high forward to center arrows inside, and I'm like, why do you do that? They shoot really accurately. I'm like,
I saw that, and I saw guys shooting that. Now I was shooting a trad bow. I was shooting a Damon Howard recurve, shooting at 300 rounds, so my high score is like 215. These guys are shooting 297s. They're shooting 300s with 50Xs, and they're shooting these long axle to axle bows. They're shooting 600 grain arrows. They're shooting feathers, little bitty 2-inch feathers, and and stuff started to click. And then I'm watching
our
the
shop guy on that. He's about 10 years ago, maybe longer ago. Our shop owner guy was shooting indoor, and he was shooting his long spot bow, just dinking around in the range. It's like middle of April or something. Nobody's in the shop, and I don't think anything of it. And I go pull his arrows for him, and I said, Mike, what the hell is this thing? He said, what are you talking about? I said, that arrow weighs like 600 grains. You've hidden the point in the shaft. You can't tell. He said, well, they're more accurate. And then he realized.
Yeah, exactly.
Talking to the heavy arrow guy.
Well, I'm watching. I'm watching the Hunting Public one day, and it was the first one where they interviewed you in person.
Yeah.
And you start talking about the cut-on contact broadheads, which I had switched over to 10, 15 years ago because I just hated everything else. My Muzzies were a close second, and I always had a couple of packs in case I couldn't find my go-tos. Yep. But I shot. It was a Carbon. I don't think they make them anymore. A Carbon Express Quad Pro, which is 100 grain little 4-blade cut-on impact. Looks kind of like a Slick Trick Razorhead.
Mm-hmm.
But they're 45,000 sticks, so they're fairly durable. I have shot through shoulder sockets with them and split the ball in half. So I was confident.
So what was intriguing about the interview? I mean, what got your antennas to pop up on that? Was that the ATA thing where we're sitting at the booth?
Yes. You start talking about the cut-on impact or the cut-on contact broadheads and the heavy setups, and I was just about to go back to aluminum arrows.
Yeah,
because I wanted the mass.
They're real stable.
I wanted the mass, but then you started talking about the FOC. Well, I had read the Ashby reports before when I was shooting trad. I just hadn't connected the dots to where, wait, you can do that with a compound too.
Yeah, that's the thing I got to start. I'm going to do some videos on that too. I'm getting a lot of BS from the long-range Western guys who I really, quite honestly, you guys need to get over yourselves. I don't care what everybody thinks. I really don't, because I got 90% of the bow hunters out there shoot deer. So for what I'm talking about, a 700 grain arrow out to 30 is totally practical, and you can just shoot a deer anywhere and break everything. They're little. But I'm getting a lot of flack from the Western guys about the theoretical, inefficiency over distance of an arrow that weighs, 600 grains and flies right with high forward center. Except they're shooting elk. And the first thing I think whenever I get all these chatter on the message boards and people send me saying, oh, these guys are bashing around on you, which I just don't go look at, is it's a 700-pound animal. I mean, what if it's downhill and you misjudge it, or uphill, or the wind's blowing 20? What if you're on your knees and you make a mistake? Don't you want the impact energy to maybe take over for not perfect?
Exactly.
What I saw with the Hunting Public when I talked to them before the interview was they get a lot of quartering in shots. They do. It's just the way the thing works.
Yes.
You're up in a tree, you go off in the woods. I don't do this, but I'm learning. I'm going to go hunting with them more this year and try to kill a deer on public, just because I've never done it.
Well,
and swinging the tree and all that. I've got the saddle and all that. It's really fantastic. Those tethered Phantoms are awesome.
I'm going to buy one this year. They're
unbelievable.
I'm sick of using my climbing
shot
stand.
Angles you can take.
Yeah, I'm sick of using my climbing stand.
You can almost shoot all around. It's almost 360 degrees.
Yeah. I do a lot of public land hunting, so...
Yep.
Yes.
You need to get one. Those are fantastic. But I told those guys, I said, man, you don't get a lot of quartering two shots because you get what you get. The deer goes by. There's no bait. There's no field. They're hunting bedding areas. The deer walks by, and that's it. Okay, next one. Where's the next deer?
Well, let's talk about the 1/4 a little bit. I've been watching your series. You've been working on a series with 1/4 shots, and you know, again, 20 some years ago, we were shooting heavy arrows, heavier, sturdier broadheads, etc., and people didn't care as much about if they hit bone or 1/4 shots and things like that. And I never hesitated to shoot an oncoming or 1/4 shot. I killed about a 90-pound field dress doe. Well, my daughter wasn't born yet, so it was over 10 years ago. With a buddy of mine, he got permission to hunt a spot. He called me one night and said, "Hey, I can take a buddy. Do you want to come with me?" Sure.
Of course.
So he sits me in a tree. I've never been here before in my life. Right before dark, 2 does walk in. I actually missed the shot. The deer ducked, and I shot the deer behind it. But I hit it at the crease where the neck and the shoulder meet. It came out about the middle of the ribs. The deer ran 60 yards and died.
Yeah, of course.
The arrow was stuck in the ground, like it was in a 3D target, which was nothing new to me. He thought it was just spectacular. He'd never seen it before. But he said, "Why would you take a 1/4 shot?" Well, I didn't want to tell him, well, this isn't the deer I was shooting. I said, well, I've taken those shots.
It's better to be lucky than good.
Exactly. I've taken those shots lots of times. I've never had an issue with them. And he just ribbed on me left and right. And it got to the point where he didn't want to hunt with me anymore because I shot a few more like that. And even though I'm killing deer, we're up till midnight trying to find his, but I'm taking unethical shots, so he doesn't want to hunt with me anymore.
It's really not. So,
no,
speaking,
I agree 100%.
Factually, okay. Physiologically speaking, it is not an unethical shot because you really only need about 6 or 7 inches of penetration, and you are in the forward part of the heart, and you're in the aorta and the large vessels that deliver oxygen to the brain and sever the biggest stuff in the plumbing.
Well, the first time you cut a deer's belly open and the heart rolls out, you realize what that vital V is all about.
Yep.
I mean,
but you really need the right setup to do it, and that's what I talked to the hunting public about, and they've all bumped up. And this year they've had spectacular results. Jake was whining because he kept losing arrows. It was funny on text and stuff. How's I think they had 1 deer leave camera this year. I mean, they started shooting them tight, started shooting them forward, shooting single bevels, and cut a really great cut-on contacts made out of tool steel and stuff. They started shooting them where they die, and there's no blood trailing anymore.
Well,
and that's always the goal.
Well,
you do not want to blood trail.
I shot, again, I hunt a lot of public land. I shot, and I've killed some really nice bucks over the years, and I don't care if I've got a tag and a legal deer walks by, I generally shoot it. I get a lot of flack from that, but that it's my tag, and that's how I do it.
You're just having fun, dude. You're a true, you're an honest deer hunter there. That's fun.
I shot a button buck. Two deer come into a field. I pick the biggest of the two. I shoot this deer. And I hadn't moved my weight up or anything yet. I was shooting probably 450 grain. I may have been pushing 500, but I doubt it because I'd gone to carbons at this point. But I shoot this deer. It was a lasered 52 yards, which I will not take that shot anymore. I was young and dumb. But the deer turned quartering. I shot it. It took 2 leaps, fell over, took 2 more leaps, fell over, and that was it.
Yeah.
I mean, completely done. It went in at the back of the ribs, broke, separated the shoulder sockets, cut the ball in half.
Yep.
And the arrow was hanging a foot, the broadhead was hanging a foot out of the front of the deer. I broke my arrow as it rolled on it, whatever. Who cares about that? but the performance, you know, a little bitty 1 inch diameter arrow or broadhead, but it took out everything important. It cut all the plumbing to the heart. It got the
That's
lungs.
always that should be the goal. And I say it
Exactly.
a lot on my channel and my videos. You should be your first goal should be to shoot them in a place where they go nowhere. And then if you have to blood trail, then blood trail.
Well, I've learned
we've got to get the mentality changed. It shouldn't be, I'm going to shoot a deer. I have to wait 30 minutes and I got to